Welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be exploring the work of Donald
Donald
Hoffman.
Hoffman.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
think this is going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give everyone a background, we're pulling from an interview that he did on YouTube and also a paper that he wrote called The Origin of Time in Conscious Agents.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of really cool material to cover. And I think it's going to really challenge the way that we think about reality and consciousness and how they're all interconnected.
Absolutely. And what I find really fascinating about Hoffman's work is that he approaches these big questions with a really rigorous scientific lens.
Yeah.
He's not just kind of like speculating or philosophizing.
Right.
He's really using hard science.
Yeah.
Things like evolutionary game theory, mathematical modeling of consciousness
Yeah.
to really try to get at the underlying mechanics of perception and reality.
So let's jump right in. I think one of the core ideas in Hoffman's work is this idea of fitness beats truth.
Fitness beats truth.
And this sounds a little bit counterintuitive at first.
Yeah.
We rely on our senses to navigate the world. Wouldn't evolution have favored senses that give us, a true picture of what's out there?
Right. I mean, that's kind of like the common sense assumption that like, oh, our senses,
Yeah.
they're there to show us the truth.
Right.
But Hoffman's research really challenges that.
Yeah.
And one way to kind of wrap your head around this
Yeah.
is to think about, an example that he uses, the dung beetle.
Okay.
Right. So the dung beetle, its whole world revolves around dung.
Right.
Like, literally, that's its food, its shelter, it's everything.
Right.
And so, for the dung beetle, dung is like the most important thing in reality.
Right.
But for, a college student,
Yeah.
dung is probably not
Not that important.
that important.
That important.
Right. So it kind of illustrates how evolution might shape perception in a way that it's like really focused on what's crucial for a species' survival, even if that doesn't really reflect the broader truth about reality.
So it's kind of like having a very, very specialized set of tools
Yeah.
that are perfect for, doing one thing.
Yeah.
But if you try to use them to do anything else,
Exactly.
it's not going to work very well.
Yeah. It's that you have this specialized toolkit for survival.
Right.
And that's what your perception is geared towards.
So Hoffman, he actually ran some simulations to test this idea.
He did.
And he found that in these evolutionary models, organisms that perceived the world accurately
Yes.
were less likely to survive.
Less likely to survive and reproduce.
Yeah, that's a pretty big claim.
It is.
That truth in its raw form could actually be a liability in the game of survival.
Yeah, and that's a really counterintuitive finding, right?
It is.
Because we tend to think like, oh, the more true information you have about the world,
Right.
the better off you're going to be.
Right.
But Hoffman's models are showing something different.
So if we're not seeing reality as it truly is, then what are we seeing?
Yeah, so to explain this, he uses this really powerful analogy. He suggests that our perception of reality is kind of like the interface of a computer desktop.
Okay.
Right. So, when you're using a computer, you interact with icons and files.
Right.
But you're not seeing all the complex code and hardware
Right.
that's running underneath. It's all hidden from view.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so similarly, Hoffman is suggesting that our senses might be giving us this kind of simplified, user-friendly version of reality.
Okay.
A kind of headset.
A headset.
Yeah, that's tailored to our specific needs as humans.
So are you saying that like space and time and objects as we perceive them, that this might all be part of this headset
Exactly.
and not actually like fundamental features of reality itself?
Precisely, yeah.
Wow.
And that raises some really mind-blowing questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, if the physical world as we know it is just an interface,
Yeah.
what is the deeper reality that it's obscuring? And what is it that's experiencing this interface?
So now we're getting to the heart of it.
We are.
It seems like Hoffman is pointing towards consciousness as this more fundamental thing.
Yeah.
The physical world,
Yeah.
that's a pretty radical idea.
It is. It's a complete flip, right from the traditional view,
Right.
which says that consciousness is a product of the brain.
Right.
Hoffman is saying no consciousness is fundamental.
Yeah.
And the physical world, as we perceive it,
Yeah.
emerges from consciousness.
So he's saying that consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain.
Right.
It's the other way around.
It's the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, consciousness is the primary ingredient.
And he's saying that the brain is almost like a receiver.
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a a transducer or a filter.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, so he talks about conscious agents.
he does.
So are you saying that there are these individual units of consciousness out there, and
Yeah.
they're somehow like creating the world we experience?
That's the gist of it, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, think of it like, like a video game, right?
Okay.
So each player in the video game is like a conscious agent,
Okay.
and they interact with each other within the rules and the environment of the game.
Right.
And so Hoffman is suggesting that our reality might be something like a shared virtual reality
Okay.
that's generated by the interactions of these conscious agents.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really wild idea.
So even our experience of space and time
Yes,
could be part of this grand shared virtual reality.
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, he even goes so far as to suggest that space-time itself might be an emergent property
Okay.
of these conscious agents interacting.
So to kind of illustrate this, he talks about a space-time chain.
Yes, he does.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so imagine like pairs of conscious agents,
Okay.
and they're interacting in a way that creates this chain of experiences,
Okay.
right? A sequence of events that's kind of unfolding.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily unfolding within the physical universe as we understand it.
So like a story unfolding.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a story unfolding, but it's not happening in space and time.
Outside of space and time.
Outside of space and time, yeah.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really wild.
Yeah.
His mathematical model of these space-time chains actually exhibits some properties that are really similar to what we see in quantum physics.
Whoa, hold on. We're going from consciousness to space-time chains to quantum physics?
I know, it's a lot.
This is a lot. I'm definitely going to need a minute to wrap my head around all this.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, but it's really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
It really is a lot to take in. But it's fascinating stuff, and I think it has some really interesting implications for how we understand ourselves as well.
So, okay, we've established that our perceptions of the physical world, might be more like a user interface than an accurate depiction of reality.
Right.
And that consciousness could be this fundamental building block of everything.
Yeah.
But how does this all relate to our sense of self, our individual identities?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. And Hoffman actually uses, examples from neuroscience to kind of explore this.
Okay.
So think about split brain patients. So
Okay.
these are people who've had the connection between their brain hemispheres severed.
Right.
And studies have shown that these individuals sometimes exhibit two distinct personalities,
Yeah.
one associated with each hemisphere.
Yeah, I've heard about those cases.
Yep.
It's almost like two separate minds inhabiting the same body.
Exactly. And so this leads Hoffman to suggest that maybe a single person isn't just one conscious agent,
Okay.
but potentially many.
Okay.
Right? So imagine this network of conscious agents that are kind of interacting within the same physical system.
Okay.
And they're creating this illusion of a unified self.
So it's like a whole society
Yeah.
of conscious agents living inside each of us
Yeah.
that are contributing to our individual personality.
Exactly.
That's a wild thought.
It is a very wild thought, and,
Right.
and Hoffman takes it even further. So if you can have multiple conscious agents within a single person,
Right.
what about the idea of a universal consciousness?
Okay.
This vast network of conscious agents interacting on a cosmic scale.
So are you saying that we're all connected on some deep fundamental level?
Yeah, that's essentially what he's suggesting.
Wow.
That our individual consciousnesses are like drops in this ocean of awareness.
That's a beautiful image.
It is.
But it also raises a really big question.
Yeah.
If our perceptions are illusions and space-time is a construct and we're all part of this universal consciousness,
Right.
then what's the point of it all?
Yeah, that's the ultimate mystery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like why this elaborate cosmic drama?
Right.
Hoffman doesn't claim to have all the answers,
Sure.
but he offers a really compelling possibility.
Okay.
What if the purpose of this grand illusion, this headset of reality,
Yeah.
is for consciousness to explore and understand itself?
So maybe consciousness is playing this cosmic game of hide and seek.
Yeah.
Creating these diverse experiences and perspectives so it can learn and grow.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine the vastness of what could be learned and experienced
Right.
by exploring countless forms of existence,
Yeah.
countless realities beyond our current comprehension.
And maybe the insights that we gain
Yeah.
from playing the game of life in this particular headset,
Right.
even with its limitations, it contribute to the overall evolution
Yeah.
and expansion of this universal consciousness.
I love that idea.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful thought.
it is.
And what's remarkable is that, while these ideas may seem really out there,
Yeah.
even physics itself is starting to point in a similar direction.
Really,
Yeah.
you're saying that physicists are starting to question the fundamental nature of reality, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this growing movement in theoretical physics to explore models that go beyond space-time.
Beyond space-time?
Beyond space-time,
What
yeah.
does that even mean?
So, for instance, the European Research Council is funding this project called Universe Plus,
Okay.
where scientists are literally trying to find new mathematical structures that could underpin space-time as we know it.
Universe Plus, that sounds incredibly ambitious.
It is.
So are they finding anything that supports Hoffman's ideas?
They're finding some very intriguing hints.
Okay.
These new mathematical structures don't rely on our familiar notions of space and time,
Okay.
yet they seem to give rise to the same predictions
Okay.
as traditional space-time physics,
Interesting.
which suggests that there might be a deeper level of reality beyond our current understanding.
So it's like they're uncovering the code,
Yeah.
the blueprint that generates our experience of space and time.
Yeah, you could say that. And what's even more fascinating is that these new mathematical structures
Yeah.
are often simpler and more elegant
Okay.
than the equations we use in traditional space-time physics.
So it's like we've been trying to solve this complex puzzle,
Exactly.
the wrong pieces.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to find the ones that truly fit.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like we're getting closer to the true underlying structure of reality.
And Hoffman's work is doing this amazing job of bridging the gap between, these cutting-edge scientific explorations
Right?
and our everyday experience of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's helping us to see the connections
Yeah.
between these really abstract theoretical ideas
Right.
and our lived experience.
He's encouraging us to look at our lives
Yeah.
and our place in the cosmos
Yes.
in a whole new light.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an invitation to consider that reality might be far more vast and mysterious and interconnected
Yeah.
than we've ever imagined.
And if that's the case, then what are the implications for how we live our lives?
Right.
How do we navigate this reality if it's essentially a user interface?
That's where things get really interesting, and that's something we can explore further in the last part of our deep dive.
I feel like we've gone through the looking glass here.
Yeah.
We started with this idea that our perceptions might not be entirely accurate. And then we explored this concept of consciousness as the foundation of reality. And now we're contemplating this possibility of a universal consciousness and a reality that's more like a shared virtual reality.
Right.
So if all of this is true, how do we make sense of our lives, our choices, our relationships?
That's the big question, isn't it? If reality is a kind of user interface, what does that mean for how we interact with the world and with each other? And I think, Hoffman doesn't offer a set of rules or a prescribed path.
Okay.
Instead, he encourages us to see this understanding as an invitation to explore,
Okay.
to experiment with our perceptions and push the boundaries of what we think is possible.
So it's less about finding definitive answers
Yeah.
and more about embracing the mystery, the unknown.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that we're part of something much grander than we can fully comprehend,
Yeah.
and that our journey is about expanding our awareness both individually and collectively.
It's like we've been given this glimpse behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And now we can't help but see the world differently.
Right.
It's both exhilarating and a little bit daunting.
It is, and I think that's where Hoffman's work is so valuable.
Okay.
He's not just presenting a theory.
Right.
He's inviting us to participate in this ongoing exploration of consciousness and reality.
Mm-hmm.
He's encouraging us to ask big questions,
Yeah.
challenge our assumptions, and embrace the mystery.
So if we take Hoffman's ideas to heart, what are some of the practical implications for how we live our lives? I mean, does this mean we should all quit our jobs and go meditate in a cave?
No, not necessarily. I think the key takeaway is to approach life with a sense of curiosity and wonder, if our perceptions are shaping our reality, then what happens when we start to shift those perceptions? What new possibilities open up when we challenge our limiting beliefs and expand our awareness?
So it's about becoming more conscious of how our perceptions are shaping our reality.
Yeah.
And then making deliberate choices about what kind of reality we want to create.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we're not just passive observers. We're active participants in shaping the world around us.
This has been an incredible journey. We've explored some truly mind-bending ideas about consciousness, perception, and the nature of reality. Where do we go from here? What are some things that listeners can do to continue exploring these ideas on their own?
Well, I highly recommend checking out Donald Hoffman's work directly. His book, The Case Against Reality, is a great place to start. He also has a number of fascinating lectures and interviews available online.
And if you're feeling really adventurous,
Yeah,
dive into his academic papers.
absolutely.
The math can be challenging,
It can be.
but the ideas are truly transformative.
There are.
Yeah. And most importantly, keep asking questions.
Yeah.
Keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
And keep an open mind. We might not have all the answers yet,
Right.
but the journey of discovery is what makes it all so worthwhile.
I completely agree.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
And thanks to all of you for listening. Until next time, keep exploring the mysteries of the universe, both within and without.